The galaxy had known war for so long that peace had become a myth. For centuries, the Crexian dominion ruled with blood and fire. Worlds burned beneath their fleets. Their ships darkened skies. Their soldiers crushed entire populations without remorse. Civilizations surrendered before the first shot was fired, just to survive another day. To the Crexians, power was law, mercy was weakness, and fear was the most efficient weapon in the galaxy. But that fear did not reach one small, quiet planet. At the far edge of known space, orbiting a yellow star, was a blue world called Earth, a place most of the galaxy ignored. The Crexian High Command called it primitive, still recovering from its own wars. When scouts reported human radio chatter, their leaders laughed. Barely spacefaring, they said, a backwater species playing with fire. And so, for sport and warning, the Dominion sent Fleet 17, 200 ships, to make an example of Earth. The broadcast began like all others. Dozens of alien species tuned in through galactic networks, watching the mighty fleet descend on its next target. For Crexians, it was entertainment, another spectacle of domination. The fleet approached the moon, forming a wall of black steel and red light. Then the transmission cut. No explosions, no distress calls, no retreat, just silence. At first, the Council of Races dismissed it as interference. It happened sometimes during plasma storms or wormhole distortions, but hours passed. Then a day, then two. The fleet never checked in. No debris was found. A council probe was sent, an automated sphere, silent and fast. It entered Sol system and streamed live visuals to the council hall. The blue planet looked calm, too calm, and then a shadow moved. Out from behind Earth's moon emerged something vast, a ship unlike anything ever recorded. It was not Crexian. Its surface was matte black, swallowing light instead of reflecting it. No identification beacons, no energy signature that made sense. For a long moment the galaxy watched in silence as the image stabilized. The ship was massive, larger than a city, sleek and angular, like a blade forged for war. On its hull, faint lights pulsed in rhythm, forming a pattern that the Council's translation systems tried to decode. After several seconds, one word appeared in alien language across all displays: retribution. Gasps filled the chamber. Some laughed uneasily, others whispered in disbelief. Humans? They can't build something like that. It's fake, a distortion. No primitive world could destroy a Crexian fleet, but no one could deny what they were seeing. The ship's outline matched no known design, and within moments of the probe's transmission, its feed cut off, static, then nothing. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Dozens of species shouted over one another. The Crexian ambassador, his scales shimmering with rage, slammed his claws on the table. This is a trick, a false image. The fleet will report soon. But they never did. Within 24 hours, every Crexian communication hub near Earth went dark. Outposts stopped responding. Patrols vanished mid-sentence. The Dominion's command structure fractured. The once mighty empire that enslaved half the galaxy suddenly found itself blind, deaf, and surrounded by whispers. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said Earth had awakened an ancient weapon buried beneath its crust. Others believed humans had made a pact with something beyond the stars. A few whispered a word no one had dared say in centuries: vengeance. On the outer colonies, panic took hold. Merchants avoided Sol space. Navigation maps were quietly updated, Earth marked as a restricted system. Even smugglers refused to go near it. But curiosity burned in the hearts of a few. Independent, data miners hacked into the Crexian military archives, searching for the fleet's last transmission. What they found was worse than any myth. The final seconds of Fleet 17's recording showed hundreds of red blips, enemy contacts, suddenly appearing from nowhere. Then a deep, mechanical voice, calm and cold, spoke in English through the static. "You should not have come here." The screen went white. Transmission ended. That recording spread across the galaxy in hours. Every channel played it, every civilization heard it. And for the first time in living memory, the Crexian Dominion went silent. in the halls of the Galactic Council, an uneasy quiet fell. Reports came from across the stars. Trade ships refusing routes near human space, planets reinforcing their borders, entire fleets halting movement. The laughter that once filled the Council's chambers was gone. Even the Crexian ambassador spoke little. Late that night, in the Council's main data chamber, the central system received a message from an unknown source. It bypassed every firewall, every encryption barrier, and projected itself on the main screen in every known language. 5 simple words. We warned you. Now it's our turn. No one claimed responsibility, no one traced the signal, and yet on every world that had ever served the Crexians, strange events began to unfold. Weapons failed to activate, communications glitched with faint whispers in human language. Satellite arrays picked up faint pulses from Earth, signals patterned like heartbeats. Some said it was psychological warfare. Others believed the humans had unleashed an AI beyond comprehension. But to those who had seen war for centuries, the truth was clear. The galaxy, once drunk with its own power, had found something it couldn't explain, couldn't control, and couldn't destroy. Something that fought back. The Crexian High Command shut down all external communication by the end of the week. Fleets were ordered home. Planets fortified their shields. No one spoke of Earth again, not publicly, but in the shadows, across military frequencies and dark networks, one phrase began to spread among soldiers and smugglers alike. If you see the black ship, run. And somewhere near the moon of that small blue planet, a silent warship drifted through the void. Watching, waiting, engines cold as death. Its hull glowed faintly, like a predator breathing in the dark. And though no one could hear it, the words etched into its armor carried across the stars. Retribution. The galaxy had feared nothing for 1,000 years, but that night when the stars went quiet, they all learned what fear truly was. The Galactic Council had not gathered in full session for almost a century, but now every seat was filled. From the crystal halls of the Van to the frozen towers of the Arak, representatives of dozens of species sat beneath the giant dome of the council chamber. The air hummed with tension. Hollow screens glowed blue, showing fragments of static and blurred images from Sol System, the last transmissions before Fleet 17 vanished. At the center, a massive hologram of Earth rotated slowly in the air. That small blue world now held the attention of the entire galaxy. The High Chancellor of the Council, a tall insectoid being with golden eyes, tapped one of his claws against the table. "Begin," he said, his voice trembling despite his rank. The Crexian ambassador stood first. His scales shimmered a dark crimson, a color of both anger and fear. "This is nonsense," he declared. "Our fleet is intact. There must be a natural phenomenon, magnetic storms, spatial collapse, something." A murmur rippled through the chamber. No one truly believed him. They had all seen the same recordings, the same haunting silence before the transmission ended. "Natural?" hissed the Van representative, a being of liquid silver. "Then, why does your dominion block all communication from its borders? Why do your ships flee from soul space like prey from a predator?" The Crexian's claws clenched. "Because we take precautions. Something dangerous is there." "Something," a voice interrupted, a deep rumble from the back of the chamber. It was Admiral Threx, a massive reptilian warrior of the Tharn Empire. His people had fought beside the Crexians in 100 wars, but even he looked shaken. "I've seen the recording myself," he said. "I commanded the fleet stationed near Gamma 12. Our long-range sensors caught a glimpse before the interference cut us off." He leaned forward, voice low, heavy. "It wasn't a natural storm, it was a ship. It came out of nowhere, no warp signature, no trace of drive energy. It just appeared." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Threx continued. "It moved like no vessel I've ever seen. It didn't fire a single shot. But when it passed, our sensors showed something impossible. The energy of the Crexian fleet just vanished. Their reactors went dark. Their weapons stopped. Then, nothing." The chamber fell silent. Every delegate stared at the hologram of Earth, spinning slowly under the cold light. The Arak representative, A tall figure of frost and crystal spoke quietly. "What do you suggest, Admiral?" Threx's yellow eyes gleamed. "We should leave that planet alone. No contact, no probes, no fleets. Whatever the humans have become, they are not to be disturbed." The Crexian ambassador slammed his claw on the table. "You want us to cower before a primitive world? We are the masters of this galaxy." But before he could continue, the lights in the chamber flickered. Every hologram froze. The Council's security systems scrambled to react, but the interference came from within. A low hum filled the air. The hologram of Earth flickered and changed. Now it showed something new, a massive silhouette rising from behind the moon. It was the black ship, the same one seen in the last transmission. Slowly, its image rotated until its front faced the Council directly. Her voice spoke, not from the chamber, not from any system, but through every device, every communicator, every mind link simultaneously. Calm. Human. "You started this war." Delegates froze. Some screamed. Others stared at their consoles as the signal bypassed all encryption. The voice continued, slow and cold. It began with whispers. Out on the edge of Crexian space, where the stars were thin and the light of the Empire faded, ships started to vanish. Not explode, vanish. A pirate cruiser called the Vengeance Claw went dark first. Its last transmission was a scream and 3 words: "They're in the light." Then a week later, a slave convoy disappeared between systems. No distress beacons, no survivors, not even debris. The cargo manifests, thousands of sentient beings taken from conquered worlds, were erased from the Crexian data nets as if they had never existed. The Dominion tried to keep it quiet, but news spread faster than silence could hide it. Captains spoke in low voices about phantoms in the void, shapes that appeared in their radar for a heartbeat before everything went black. The galaxy gave them a name: the Ghost Fleet. At first, the Galactic Council thought it was myth, until their own ships began to vanish. In the Council's secure war room, a dozen holograms flickered across the air, each one a record of lost vessels. Different species, different regions, same pattern. No warning, no evidence. Just nothing. Admiral Threx stood beside the Chancellor, arms crossed, eyes narrow. "They don't kill for conquest," he said. "They target slavers, raiders, and warfleets. Always the same type." The Chancellor's golden eyes dimmed. "Selective destruction. That suggests intelligence, strategy, justice," murmured Ambassador Zerkai, who had returned to the Council chamber one last time before his diplomatic mission launched. "They are enforcing their own law," the Crexian ambassador hissed. "Lies, this is coordinated sabotage. The humans are too weak for such reach." But even as he shouted, another alarm blared through the chamber. A new broadcast was overriding every secure frequency. On the main screen, a static-filled video appeared, a transmission intercepted from a Crexian patrol ship moments before it vanished. The crew screamed as something moved past their viewport, a shadow blotting out the stars. A shape. Size ship, no hundreds of them. Black silhouettes sliding silently through the void, their hulls absorbing every sensor ping. Then came the voice, calm, human, female. "The guilty will disappear. The innocent will not be touched." The transmission ended. The chamber fell into chaos. Some delegates cried out in panic. Others demanded military retaliation. But Admiral Threx only whispered, "They're building an army." The Council voted to authorize Operation Eclipse, a united task force to find and confront these phantom vessels. Dozens, her fleets from across the galaxy, jumped to the outer systems. None came. Back, meanwhile, in deep space, far from any suns, the Varn ambassador's ship, luminous path, drifted in the dark. Zerkai stood before his pilot, his metallic form reflecting faint starlight. "Transmit the peace code again," he said. "Repeat it in human frequencies." The pilot obeyed. No response, just interference. Then, without warning, the ship's lights dimmed. The stars outside twisted. Something massive was moving beside them. Silent, smooth, invisible until it was too close. A black hull, featureless, endless. Zerkai stepped forward, transfixed. "It's them." A pulse of light rippled across the ship's surface, like an eye-opening. The Varn crew trembled. Then a voice, human, deep and even, spoke inside their minds. Who came to talk? Zerkai straightened, forcing calm. Yes, I come for peace, to speak for the council. There was a pause. Then the voice again. The council watched while they burned our world. Why do they speak now? Zerkai hesitated. Because they are afraid. Silence. Then quietly, good. Fear is the beginning of change. The black vessel drifted closer. Symbols glowed faintly on its hull, the same single word in every known script. Retribution. Before Zerkai could reply, his ship's console flickered. A new message appeared, one that wasn't sent by his crew. Just 4 words, peace is enforced now. Then everything went dark. When the luminous path was found weeks later, it was drifting near the edge of Crexian space. The ship's systems were untouched, its crew alive, but every record, every log, every trace of data had been erased. On the main console, those same words were burned into the screen. Peace is enforced. Across the galaxy, strange things began to happen. Pirates abandoned their bases. Slave colonies were found empty. The captors gone, the captives left unharmed. War factories went offline overnight, their reactors drained by unknown forces. And sometimes, when a commander ignored warnings, one of the Ghost Fleet's black ships would appear. No weapons fire, no threats, just a single communication ping, carrying a message impossible to jam or trace. You were warned. The message came moments before every ship in that fleet lost power forever. In less than a month, galactic crime dropped by 70%. In less than 2, the outer systems reported full demilitarization of entire sectors, without a single shot fired. No one understood how, but everyone knew who. On the bridge of the Retribution, deep within an uncharted nebula, Admiral Reyes stood before a holographic display. Around her, 100 smaller ships shimmered, human warships invisible to all scanners. The operation proceeds, she asked. A technician nodded. Every target neutralized. No casualties on either side. We follow your code. Reyes gazed into the swirling lights of the nebula. Her eyes were tired. Good. But remember, the Council will not understand peace built on fear. They will test us. Another officer turned. And when they do, Reyes's expression hardened. Then we show them why the galaxy feared nothing, until humanity arrived. She turned to the viewport, where hundreds of ghostly ships formed ranks in the void. Silent and perfect, each ship bore the same name. Glowing faintly on its side in human script, Retribution class, a fleet of vengeance. Built not to conquer, but to remind the galaxy of what happens when humanity is cornered. The Ghost Fleet was not myth anymore. It was judgment, and it was only beginning. For generations, the Crexian Dominion had been the hammer of the galaxy. No empire had stood against them and survived. They were cruel, efficient, and proud. But now, for the first time in their long history, they were afraid. Their fleets were shrinking. Entire patrol groups vanished without distress calls. Their colonies reported silent black ships hovering above them, ships that made no sound and fired no shots. But when they left, every weapon system was dead. At first, the Crexian High Command tried to deny it. They told their people the disappearances were malfunctions or rebellions. But even the generals could feel the truth creeping in. Something had changed in the stars. The humans had returned. The war councils met in secret deep beneath the Dominion's capital world, Raxar Prime, a planet of crimson deserts and metal citadels. Generals shouted over one another. Admirals slammed their claws on glass tables, demanding vengeance. This is a trick. One barked. They use illusions, technology meant to frighten us. Another spat back. Then why do our ships vanish? Why do our colonies go dark? The Supreme Commander of the Dominion, Lord Vezrath, raised a hand and silenced the room. His scales were pale, his voice low and dangerous. We were once gods of this galaxy, he said. Now we hide in the dark like insects. The Council will do nothing. The humans will not stop. So we must strike first. A murmur rippled through the room. One admiral whispered, "Against Earth?" Vezrath nodded. "Against Earth," he gestured to the holomap. "We will gather every remaining fleet. 3,000 ships. Every dreadnought, every cruiser. We will burn that blue planet to ash and end this ghost story forever." The order was given. For 3 weeks the Crexians prepared. Massive hangars opened across the Dominion. Workers labored day and night, loading plasma warheads and reactor cores. Every ship's hull was marked with the symbol of the Crexian sun, a mark of final war. The galaxy watched in silence. Even the Council, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty, dared not interfere. Admiral Threx of the Tharn Empire called it madness, but no one listened. The Crexians had already decided. When the Great Armada departed, it was the largest fleet ever assembled, 3,000 warships cutting through the stars in perfect formation. Their arrival near Sol System was broadcast across secure channels. The Crexian fleet would destroy Earth and prove to the galaxy that the Dominion still ruled. For 12 minutes, everything went as planned. Their ships emerged from hyperspace just beyond Neptune's orbit. The sun gleamed faintly ahead. Earth, small, blue, fragile, waited in the distance. Then their sensors failed. One by one, systems flickered. Shields dropped. Gravity fields twisted. The navigational grid began to spin as if space itself were bending around them. Panic filled the Crexian channels. Reactors failing. Shields collapsing. Unknown interference, origin unknown. And then, on the edge of their vision, something moved, a ripple in space. A black shape sliding out of distortion. Vast, silent, impossible. Then another, and another. Hundreds of ships emerging from the void, surrounding the Crexian armada from every side. It was the Ghost Fleet. Admiral Vezrath's voice thundered through the command net. "Fire all weapons! Wipe them out!" Thousands of plasma beams and missiles streaked into the dark, but none reached their targets. Every shot bent away, vanishing into glowing ripples that folded space like liquid. Then, the stars themselves seemed to dim. In the center of the chaos, a colossal warship appeared, larger than any in the Ghost Fleet, blacker than shadow, shaped like a blade drawn by gods, the Retribution. A voice echoed across every Crexian ship, calm, human. "We told you to stay away." The fleet's reactors spiked. Instruments screamed. The galaxy hadn't slept since the fall of the Crexian Dominion. Entire systems whispered of vanishing fleets, erased records and silent shadows near the edges of known space. Trade routes were empty. Military patrols turned back before reaching Sol. Even pirates refused to travel near the human sector. And then, on the 7th night after the battle, every screen in the galaxy came alive. It began with static, then a low hum that rattled through subspace relays, command centers and personal devices alike. The Galactic Council tried to shut it down, but no one could. The transmission had overridden every encryption, every defense. It was everywhere. The image stabilized into darkness. Then a single figure appeared, human, standing before a vast metal window, stars glowing faintly behind. Her uniform was black, marked only by one white insignia, HSF Retribution. The galaxy knew her face instantly. Admiral Reyes. Her voice was calm, but it carried through the void with quiet authority. "This message is for every world watching. For centuries you called humanity a young race, primitive, reckless, divided. You said we were unworthy of the stars. And yet, when the Crexian Dominion came for us, we stood alone. No aid, no allies. Just silence from the galaxy that watched and waited for our end." She paused. The sound of her breath filled the silence between systems. But humanity doesn't die quietly. The image zoomed out slightly, revealing the bridge of the Retribution. Behind her, faint outlines of crew members moved among glowing blue consoles. Faces hidden, voices muted. "We learned. We adapted. We built weapons from what you called debris. We turned your discarded technology into shields. We made power out of your fear." The council chamber on the planet Velis 9 erupted into chaos. Dozens of alien ambassadors shouted at once, "Cut the signal! Shut it down. This is a declaration of war." But the feed would not stop. You watched the Crexians burn world after world. You called it balance. You called it order. How you called it law. Reyes leaned closer to the camera. Now that order is gone. In distant systems, colonies fell into silence, watching the transmission as if hypnotized. Farmers, soldiers, engineers, all stopped what they were doing. Even pirates turned off their engines and listened. "We didn't want this," Reyes continued. "We didn't want vengeance. We wanted peace, but peace is not given, it's taken. You should have remembered that before you came to our home." The screen behind her flickered to life, showing the destruction of the Crexian fleet, 3,000 warships disappearing into blinding white light. We have the power now to end wars before they begin. We have technology that bends space, silences fleets and erases weapons from existence. We will not use it for conquest. A pause. Her eyes were sharp but not cruel. But if you bring war to us again, if you ever set your fleets toward Earth, toward Mars, toward any human colony, then remember the Crexians. Remember what happened when you ignored our warnings. The image cut to black for a second. Then new words appeared across every screen in the galaxy, glowing in white. Retribution protocol complete. Phase 2, observation begins. Then the broadcast ended. For several seconds, the galaxy remained frozen. Then chaos erupted. Governments scrambled to secure their fleets. The Galactic Council went into emergency session. Conspiracy networks spread rumors faster than light. The humans have created a weapon that manipulates time. They've made contact with ancient AI from the old galaxy. They've become gods. But not everyone was afraid. In the outer colonies, enslaved races who had lived under the Crexian whip for centuries began to rise. They painted symbols of the human fleet on their walls, white retribution marks on black metal. They called themselves the Silent Alliance. They believed the humans had come not to rule, but to bring justice to a broken galaxy. Still, the Council could not ignore the danger. In a private session deep within their hidden fortress on Eridan Prime, Councillor Valther of the Terran species slammed his hand on the table. They threaten the balance of the galaxy, he shouted. No one should hold that kind of power, not even them. Ambassador Zerkai leaned forward. His reptilian eyes narrowed. You call it power. I call it survival. They only did what we refused to do. Survival? Valther barked. They erased an empire. Zerakai's voice was cold. And yet you slept peacefully while that empire burned 100 worlds. Tell me, Counselor, are you afraid of the humans, or are you ashamed that it wasn't you who stopped the Crexians? The room fell silent. Meanwhile, back near Earth's moon, the Retribution hung in orbit. The human fleet, hundreds of black warships, moved silently, no lights, no transmissions. Inside the command deck, Admiral Reyes stood before a hologram of the galaxy. Points of light marked the system still under military rule, the remnants of the Crexian regime, and the unaligned colonies waiting to see who would lead next. Her officer, Commander Lian, approached. The message reached every system, ma'am. Every world. Every relay. Reyes nodded slowly. Good, let them think about it. What about Phase 2? Lian asked quietly. Reyes smiled faintly. Observation has already begun. We'll watch who prepares for peace and who prepares for war. She tapped the hologram. If they learn, we won't need to fight again. If they don't. Her voice trailed off as the stars reflected in her eyes. Then they'll face what the Crexians faced. Lian hesitated. Ma'am, some say we've gone too far. That erasing an entire fleet was excessive. Reyes turned slowly toward him. You were on Earth when they came, weren't you? Yes. Then you saw the skies burn. You heard the screams. You know what happens when mercy is mistaken for weakness. Her tone softened, but her gaze stayed firm. We gave them a chance to stop. They chose not to. She looked back out at the stars. Now we make sure no one else forgets. Outside the viewport, the Retribution's hull shimmered as cloaking fields reactivated. One by one, the human ships faded from sight, leaving the galaxy once again in silence. But this time the silence wasn't peaceful. It was watchful. It was human. The message from Admiral Reyes echoed for days across every world in the galaxy. Some called her words a warning, others a prophecy. But far beyond the borders of human space, beyond the known sectors, something ancient stirred. It began with a signal, not from humans, not from any known empire, but from the Void Line, a region so deep and silent that even light avoided it. At first the signal was faint, just static in the background of the galactic network. Then it grew louder, sharper, forming a rhythm. Scientists across the galaxy analyzed it and gasped when they found the pattern. It wasn't random. It was language. The Galactic Council called an emergency session on Eridan Prime. The chamber was filled with tension. Ambassadors from over 200 systems sat in fear as the transmission was played. A low hum, a pulse of energy. Then a voice, mechanical yet alive, spoke in every known language at once. Cycle 74 has begun. The Watchers have risen. The gate must open again. The Council fell silent. No one moved. Then Ambassador Zerakai whispered, "The Old Ones. They're real." For millennia, the Old Ones had been myth, beings said to exist before recorded history, creators of the first civilizations, the builders of the gates that connected galaxies. They vanished eons ago, leaving behind only broken machines and warnings carved into planets. Do not awaken them. But now, the message was clear. They were awakening themselves. The Council sent probes toward the void line. None returned. Entire expeditions vanished without trace. And then, deep within that black region, sensors detected movement, massive energy readings, bigger than anything ever recorded. It was as if a continent-sized object was rising from a sea of darkness. Meanwhile, in orbit around Earth's moon, the Retribution received the same signal. On the bridge, alarms blared. Blue light flickered across the crew's faces as the transmission repeated through every system. Commander Lian rushed to Admiral Reyes. "Ma'am, we're intercepting a deep space signal, origin unknown." "It's coming from beyond the outer rim." Reyes turned sharply. "Is it another Crexian remnant?" "No, ma'am, It's older. Way older. It's activating relay networks that haven't functioned in thousands of years." The ship's AI, known only as Athena, spoke with a calm, eerie tone. "Signal source identified. Classification precursor. Designation the Architects." Reyes froze. "The Architects? That's impossible. They're extinct." "Correction," Athena replied. "They are waking." A holomap appeared before them, showing the galaxy. Then slowly new points of light appeared, 5 of them each pulsing with the same signal. 5 locations, Lian whispered. "And they're moving," Athena continued. "Each signal is tied to dormant constructs beneath the surface of old worlds. Estimated power output. Planetary scale." Reyes clenched her fists. "They're machines. Whole planets that can move. That is accurate." Silence filled the bridge. The crew stared at the map in horror. Reyes finally spoke. "Get me the Council. Now." Hours later, a secure transmission connected the Retribution to the Galactic Council. The Chancellor's hologram flickered into view, his expression pale. "Admiral Reyes," he began, "we were hoping this was an exaggeration. But the readings are real, aren't they?" "Yes," Reyes said. "Whatever's out there, it's not Crexian and it's not human. It's something older, and it's waking up because of what happened." Zerakai leaned forward. "You mean your use of the Retribution weapon?" Reyes didn't look away. "The Crexians triggered it when they attacked Earth." Darkness spread across the stars like ink poured into light. The Architects, the oldest beings in existence, had awoken. Their colossal structures drifted through the void, devouring stars, silencing systems, and bending space like ripples on a pond. Every known empire trembled, worlds burned. Colonies vanished, and in the center of it all, one word whispered through every dying transmission: Retribution. Because the galaxy now looked not to the Council, not to their dying fleets, but to the humans, the very race they had once mocked as weak. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the HSF Retribution, watching the holomap of the galaxy dissolve piece by piece. The Architect's signal pulsed through the map, 5 black rings moving slowly inward, consuming space itself. Commander Lian's voice trembled. "Ma'am, half the Council fleets are gone. The Tharn Armada was swallowed near the Vega corridor. Even the Dominion remnants have vanished." Reyes's expression didn't change. "And the others?" "They're running." Reyes stared at the map. "Then we stand alone." Athena, the ship's AI, spoke softly through the static. "Correction. We do not stand alone. Incoming transmissions from over 70 systems. They are responding to your signal, Admiral." The hologram flickered and a dozen faces appeared. Alien leaders, resistance commanders, smugglers, even former pirates. Their ships were battered, their voices rough, but they had one thing in common. They chose to fight beside humans. Reyes looked at them silently for a moment. "You all saw what they did to the stars. You know what's coming." An alien general with scaled blue skin spoke first. "We have no choice. The Architects will destroy everything. If we fall together," Reyes nodded. "Then together, we make our stand." The United Fleet, humans and aliens alike, gathered near the star Proxima Centauri. Thousands of ships floated in formation, their engines burning faint blue. For the first time in galactic history, old enemies shared a single command network. On the bridge of the Retribution, silence reigned. Reyes turned to Athena. "Show me the source." The hologram zoomed out, revealing the largest of the 5 signals, the Prime Architect, a machine so vast it dwarfed entire planets. It wasn't a ship. It was a world. Its surface was alive, shifting, covered in swirling metal like molten oceans. Athena's voice was calm, but even she sounded uneasy. Power output exceeds all known scales. Estimated energy core, comparable to a small star. Structural material unknown. Probability of destruction 0.03%, Leon whispered. Then how do we fight that? Reyes's eyes didn't leave the hologram. We don't fight it. We break the cycle. The fleet moved. Tens of thousands of ships emerged from warp, forming a glittering line between Proxima and the approaching Architect world. It loomed in the void like a god descending from the heavens, its surface glowing with patterns of ancient runes. A deep, resonant voice echoed through every mind in the fleet. "Children of flesh, you were not meant to rise again. Stand down and we will return you to the dust." Reyes stood straight. "All ships open broadcast." She spoke calmly, her voice transmitted across the stars. "This is Admiral Reyes of the human stellar fleet. We don't kneel. Not to gods. Not to ghosts. You built this galaxy, but we live in it now." A silence. Then the Prime Architect replied, its voice colder than the void itself. "Then you will die with it." The battle began. The Architects unleashed energy waves that bent reality, erasing ships like sand in a storm. Human and alien fleets fired everything. Rail cannons, plasma storms, nuclear torpedoes. But the ancient world barely flinched. Athena reported, "Their defenses are rewriting our attacks, turning kinetic force into gravity folds." "We cannot harm them." Reyes clenched her fists. "Then we go deeper." She ordered the Retribution to dive straight toward the Prime Architect's surface. Smaller ships followed, covering its descent. The hull shook violently as energy storms ripped across the fleet. "Shields failing!" Leon shouted. "Keep us steady!" Reyes barked. "We reach the core or none of us go home." The Retribution cut through the Architect's outer shell, descending into a tunnel of blinding light. Inside, they found something no one expected. A city. Massive towers of liquid metal floated in the air, and in their center hung a colossal sphere of light pulsing like a heartbeat. Athena's voice dropped to a whisper. "That is their core. The memory engine. It records and resets every civilization." Reyes stared. "Then we destroy it." Athena hesitated. "Admiral, destroying it may end more than the Architects. It may erase the cycle itself, past and future. There will be no rebuilding, ever." Reyes's voice softened. "Then maybe it's time the galaxy decided its own fate." She looked at Leon. "Arm the singularity drive." Outside, the Architects realized what she intended. Their entire world trembled. "You would unmake creation itself?" Reyes smiled faintly. "You had your turn." She slammed her hand on the control. "All ships, pull back. The Retribution will finish this." The drive activated. Space itself began to twist around the ship, light folding inward like collapsing glass. Leanne turned to her, eyes wide. "We won't survive this." "I know," the ship's hull screamed as reality bent. Energy surged through the bridge. Reyes looked at Athena one last time. "You said we live in Cycle 74. Maybe it's time to start 75 on our own terms." Athena paused. Then quietly, "It has been an honor, Admiral." The Retribution dove into the core. A blinding white light engulfed everything. Ships, stars, the Prime Architect itself. The last sound was a human voice whispering through static. "For every world that fell, this is for you," and then silence. When the light faded, the galaxy was still. The Architects were gone. Their structures disintegrated, their energy dispersed into starlight. The dark zones vanished, and the stars shone brighter than ever before, but the Retribution was gone too. No wreckage, no signal. Just a faint echo repeating endlessly across subspace. Cycle 75 initiated. Years later, legends spread of a new dawn. The united species rebuilt together. The Galactic Council was reborn, not of old empires, but of equals. At its center stood a monument, black, tall, and silent. It bore no name, only an inscription carved in hundreds of languages. "They feared us once. Then they followed us." And when the end came, humanity stood alone and saved us all. Far beyond the edge of the galaxy, in the deep void where no light reaches, a faint pulse flickered. A ship, dark, motionless, floated through eternity. Inside, a voice whispered through the static. "Admiral Reyes, cycle complete. Awaiting your next command." And somewhere faintly the stars seemed to answer. The humans were gone, but the galaxy still remembered. And the retribution watched. Centuries passed. The galaxy healed. The old wounds left by war and fear faded, replaced by unity. Worlds once divided by race and empire now shared a single flag, the alliance of free systems. Trade flowed freely. Children learned in schools about the dark age before peace, the era of the Crexian dominion, the awakening of the architects, and the war that ended everything. But there was one story the historians could never agree on, the story of Admiral Reyes and the ship called Retribution. Some said she died in the explosion that ended the war. Others believed she and her crew were caught between dimensions, frozen in the moment they destroyed the architects, and some, mostly, the old soldiers who'd fought beside her, believed something far more impossible. They said the Retribution still watched the stars. On the far edge of the galaxy, in a lonely outpost orbiting a dying sun, a young technician named Kale was on his nightly patrol when his console began to flicker. Static filled his screen, forming an old code pattern that hadn't been used for centuries. He frowned. That can't be right. He typed a few commands. The static cleared for a moment, and then a single message appeared on his display. Simple, silent, chilling. Transmission received. Cycle stable. Kyle froze. He checked the origin. The signal wasn't coming from any known system. It wasn't even within mapped space. It came from beyond the galaxy. He swallowed hard. Who are you? A pause. Then the console beeped again. "This is Admiral Reyes. Status report?" Kyle stumbled back from his chair, staring at the screen. "That's not possible," he whispered. Your history." But the voice that came next wasn't from the console speakers. It came from the room itself, a calm, steady voice that filled the air. "History doesn't end, Technician Kale. It waits." Kale turned slowly. The room was empty, but a faint blue figure stood in the center of the floor, a hologram of a woman in a black uniform. Her eyes glowed faintly with digital light. It was her. "Admiral Reyes," Kale stammered. "Admiral, how?" "The war, it ended centuries ago." Reyes nodded slowly. "Yes, and the galaxy rebuilt itself." "But every cycle ends, Kale. Every piece begins to crack," he frowned. "Cycle? You mean the ones the architects talked about?" Her expression hardened. "They weren't wrong. Every civilization rises and falls. But we changed something. We broke the pattern once. Now the galaxy chooses its own path." Kyle swallowed. "Then why are you here?" Reyes turned toward the viewport, where the dying sun shimmered weakly in the distance. "Because something is stirring again. Something outside your charts. A signal older than the architects. And this time humanity won't stand alone." The hologram flickered. Kale's monitors flashed with new data, coordinates beyond the galactic rim. Energy readings. "Moving anomalies.